This game is all about making your own journey and making decisions about what you do next. So sailing should be an option. It shouldn't be the only sensible one. We're the Old School RuneScape team, and we're delighted to be here to talk about our first ever brand new skill in Old School RuneScape, sailing. So first, let's give a little bit of introduction to who we are. So I'm Kieren, or Mod Kieren. I'm the game's design director.
I'm Ed, principal narrative designer.
And I'm Elena. I'm a senior game designer. Right, so let's dig into it. What is sailing? As Kieren said, it's the first skill that we've ever done in Old School RuneScape. And don't get me wrong, the game has many skills already, but this is the first one that we're making since the games are relaunched in 2013. If you see the map here, that is the current world map in the live game right now. And with sailing, we're adding a couple of new bits. This is going to be the world map. It's pretty cool. We're adding so much stuff to the sea. The highlight is like all the islands and stuff, like the places you can get to. But there's so much stuff to do with your boat and on your boat as well. The ways that you train sailing, for example, you use your boat for all kinds of stuff. You can sail through these like barracuda trials, which is this type of like time trial that you have to get through. There's port tasks, which basically has you use your boat as some sort of like service to the people at ports. So you can use it to kind of like ferry goods from port to port. So take a crate of bananas from Karamja to Port Sarim, or get a cannon, fire at pesky sea monsters, that kind of stuff. So yeah, there's just tons of new content coming in.
Awesome, but to just step back a second, what is Old School RuneScape? Some of you look like you know. I love the buying hats going on over here. That's cool. There's some awesome cosplayers in here. But for anybody who doesn't know, Old School RuneScape is a retro version of RuneScape, sort of bringing back the 2007 version. And we released that back in February 2013, if you can believe it, nearly 12 years ago now, which is quite staggering. It was brought back by popular demand. Nearly 500,000 people in the RuneScape community voted and wanted this version of the game to be available again. And we very much kept that as part of what the game is. It's player-driven from the ground up. Every single update that we bring to the game, it has to be voted on. It has to get a 70% yes vote at a polling booth. So the players actually have democratic say on how this game is developed. And obviously, as I say, 12 years of history. The game's changed a lot in those 12 years. We've got all sorts of new content in the game compared to what the 2007 version had. It's evolved in lots of different ways. We're on mobile now, which it never was in the past. And basically, all of this is entirely shaped by you guys, the community, at the end of the day. So we're very grateful for all of that. But in recent times, like, the players have started to say we're in the sort of platinum age with Old School, which is amazing to hear for us. And obviously, the team do a load of awesome things, a load of hard work. But some of the recent highlights, we've just finished our last Varlamore expansion over the last couple of years. And that has finished our first ever brand new continent, which felt like a really landmark release for us. We brought back our own fan convention, RuneFest, back in March in Birmingham, which was amazing for everybody as well. Leagues has become a mainstay feature of the game. We've done our 5th one now, and that's always a really peak moment for Old School. We've been hitting record numbers. The game's bigger than it ever has been. I mean, it hit nearly 250,000 people online at the same time this summer, which has been mind-blowing. We're also very blessed to have some like phenomenal creators in the Old School sphere, especially like something like Gillenor Games, driven by Soup. There's a huge creator collaboration goes into that series, and it's amazing how many people consume that. People like Settled and Swampletics, like, we're blessed to have them alongside us as sort of part of the journey with Old School RuneScape. And we've got all sorts of game modes going on. We did Group Man not that long ago. We've got Gridmaster mode going on right now. Has anyone played that? And it seems like that's gone down really well, so we're really pleased with that. But let's step back and actually talk a little bit about our history with skills.
Yeah, so when it comes to our history of skills, we've had a few misses, shall we say. 3, to be precise. We obviously had Artisan all the way back in 2014, and that failed. We had Sailing itself, back in 2015, and that failed. And a few years later, we had Warding, and that failed. So we've been here before, and I think there's probably a few reasons why. I think with Artisan and the first iteration of Sailing, I don't know if anyone sort of like who was playing back then remembers the blogs, they were a bit bare bones, I think, is a fair way of putting it. We weren't really sure ourselves what these skills were. We definitely weren't able to communicate to the community what these skills were. And skills, they are the backbone of the game. And ours is a game that is all about heritage, it's all about nostalgia. Adding a new skill is something that is really exciting, but it's also absolutely terrifying, because if you add a new skill, you're potentially changing the way the game plays fundamentally. If you do that wrong, that can be disastrous for a game that is all about nostalgia and heritage. And it's fair to say that those first two skills, we did not convince the community that we knew what we were doing, because to be quite frank, we did not know what we were doing. We were a team of, I say we, I wasn't even on the team back then. I don't think any of us were back then, like initially. That was that long ago. There was a team of 5 people, so this is how many just knocking other people who aren't here. Brilliant. So there was a team of about 5 people, like that. I think the community very clearly saw that they weren't going to be able to deliver a meaningful skill back then. So we sort of left it for a few years, came back a few years later with warding. I think with warding, we then went in a complete opposite direction, in that we looked at those skills like, okay, the design was unclear, it was all a bit not communicated very well, so let's try and communicate every single detail, right down to XP rates and even the color of the skill cape. And unsurprisingly, everyone went, yeah, do you want to maybe try walking before you run sort of thing? Dial it back a bit. And I think warding then only got worse as we then did subsequent polls and blogs trying to rework things. It just led to mass information overload. And I think it was quite clear that even then, while maybe better than the first couple of attempts, we still weren't really in a place where we could deliver a skill. Let's look on the bright side. There's definitely a lot of lessons to be learned from all those attempts, and I think we're okay at learning lessons, and I think we put a fair few of those into practice when it came to this attempt at sailing.
Yeah, so 4th skill attempt, and obviously this one has went quite well. This is basically the process we followed with the community. We've shared this, we ticked these boxes as we sort of went through the stages, and we really decided to do this properly. I mean, we started with the most simple question, what we called the green light question, but it was literally, do you even want a skill? We'd never actually just asked that as a pure basic question, let alone which skill. Do you just want a skill at all? Players told us, you want a skill. Great. And the next step was to understand what skill you want. In the community consultation phase, we did surveys, we wanted to understand, where do you want us to go? We've got all sorts of different types of skills, gathering skills, production skills, buyable skills, there's lots of ways to go. So we got that information. That really helped us to give us an idea of which way we should go next. We took that and turned that into 3 different skill pitches. And they were based on those criteria, all of them highlighting different aspects of it. And we then asked the players which skill out of those 3 should go forward. Sailing obviously won that discussion, and we moved into the refinement stage. And that stage we decided, again, coming back to those learnings, we can't do everything at once. So we broke sailing down into lots of different phases of different aspects of the skill and had those conversations one by one, which allowed us to have a really nice conversation with the community about these aspects and get really quality feedback that helped shape exactly the way that we designed sailing. Once we got through that stage, we had essentially a core sailing design. We communicated what that was and pulled that final sailing question, and obviously, well, here we are, sailing past the vote, thanks to the community. And in the last 2 years, it's been a long 2 years of sailing development. It's been a really big challenge to get that right. We're here today, right now, through alphas, through betas. The community's had their say all the way through that journey as well and really helped us to shape what it is now. And we're really quite happy with what we've got. But it hasn't all been plain sailing, pun fully intended. We've had various challenges.
And let's dig into that a bit, because that's why you're here, right? You want to see behind the scenes of the development of it specifically. There's been many challenges, and the first one that we had to figure out was just, how do boats work? And it's not super simple, because we have a really old game engine to work with. It's not trivial to change anything with that game engine. And yeah, sailing is no different. We had this vision of what boats would, or how they would work, where it was really important to us that the boat doesn't feel like the player, as in, I shouldn't feel like I am the boat. I should still feel like I am the player on the boat. So it was important that both the boat could move in its own way, and I as a player could move around on the boat as well. This proved really challenging to do in our game engine, but what we ended up on was this tech that we call world entities, where basically we put the player in an instance off the world somewhere like far, far away, and they're on a boat, and then we project that sort of like image of that boat onto the main game world. And that's kind of the GIF you see here, the very first like, prototype of how that could work, where you see the player twice. That is the same player. And the bottom one is where the player actually is, and the second one is where the player is projected to. And that's how the tech works. The player is on a boat off the world and then projected onto the map somewhere else. But we had more challenges to get through.
Next was the big one. How do ships even move? Getting this right has been one of the biggest challenges, and we still have this old game engine to deal with this one too, so quite a challenge. In the GIF, in the video, you can see this is boats moving like players do, and you got this very tile-based system. They're moving in straight lines, diagonals, L-shaped movements, all the stuff that players do if you're familiar with that. And it doesn't look right. You know, boats shouldn't turn on the spot immediately, instantaneously. It's not going to feel appropriate. So how do we get something that feels a bit more like a boat, a little bit more realistic to what boats should do, but still actually feel like it's old school? It is a tile-based system. It is click to move. Should we do WASD? Probably not, but we at least discussed it. So how on earth did we tackle this problem, as it took us a while? One of our engine developers built a prototype in Unity because our game engine's slow. It's challenging to develop this stuff in quickly. And doing it in Unity allowed us to try a lot of different things very quickly. So you can see there's loads of different sliders at the top right. There's different movement settings. So basically, we ideated a lot of different ways that boats could move, different control schemes, and they were all built into this sort of mock-up of old school in Unity. And this allowed us to just try loads of different things really fast. We very quickly had an idea that what we ended up with was probably the right way to go. But the best thing about this is also we could quite easily share it with a few players. So we NDA'd a small group of players. We were able to get that feedback directly from real players using this Unity prototype that helped us select, right, this is the way we should go. And this is it in the actual game. So obviously it looks a little bit more like old school now, but it's basically that control scheme we just saw on the prototype screen. And if you've played the alpha and betas, it's basically what you've had in there. And this is a Barracuda trial, one of the activities Elena mentioned, sort of obstacle course, time trial. You're trying to collect these crates as fast as possible, navigating the terrain, avoiding the thunderstorms, and so on. And this puts that movement scheme really more to its paces. And this is just the first Barracuda trial. There are more, and the later ones push it even more. But it's really cool that we've been able to get another movement system in the game, not just what players do, but something else that should hopefully be really fun and feel really appropriate for the game. And we're really quite happy with where we got to with it.
So we know how boats work, and we know how to move them. Now, how is this a skill? How do you train it? How do you get XP? How do you level up? All this kind of stuff was a big challenge to figure out as well. And the way we approached it was to look at other games and research real-life boats as well. Like, how do those even work? We looked at games like Sea of Thieves, which is a really awesome sailing game. But they're also very realistic in their interactions, and the interactions in our game are quite basic and there's a bit more abstraction there between what you do and what you see. And so it was important for us that we don't try to be something we're not. We're not Sea of Thieves, and we shouldn't try to be. We also looked at the existing skills in game and tried to figure out like what makes those skills. And we found that they usually have this core loop, which is usually really basic. And then they add more activities, other things on top of that core loop to make it a bit more interesting. So a simple example is wood cutting in the game. It's an existing skill. All you need is an axe, and then you run up to a tree, you click it once, and then you just wait. And eventually you get a log. And that's it, that's the skill. There's a few more activities around sort of how, like other ways you can train it, but that's the core of it. And so with sailing, it was important for us to find a really simple core loop that would gain you XP. And that's kind of what you see in the GIF here, is every now and then when you're sailing, there will be a gust of wind. And it's kind of like, you just see like wind around your sails. And if you click your sails at that time, you trim the sails. Trimming the sails is sailing terminology, it basically means you adjust the rigging to take advantage of the wind the best possible way you can. So in this scenario, you get a bit of XP, and you get a speed boost as well for your boat. And that's, at the core of it, the most simple, basic interaction in sailing. But then we built a bunch of other gameplay on top of that. We talked about Barracuda Trials, for example. That's like also about steering whilst doing this. Yeah, there's just lots of different activities. You can build a cannon and fight stuff. You can build a trolling net on your boat, so you can train fishing and sailing at the same time. So yeah, there's lots of different stuff that you can do with your boat at this point.
So sailing's, it's coming together. But there is another challenge, and that is making sure that this skill feels old school. As mentioned earlier, obviously, nostalgia, heritage, they are essential. And sailing does have a potential risk there in that when you're hopping on a boat, you're doing just that. You're leaving the land behind. You are entering a new world, as we've sort of talked about due to all the technical challenges of all world entities and stuff like that. There is that risk there of it feeling like there is sort of a divide and like you're almost like leaving the world of RuneScape behind. So it was absolutely essential that we made sure that sailing potentially felt like it's something that could have always been there. And when it came to tackling this, what we actually ended up doing was we looked a lot at the recent Varlamore area expansion. And with Varlamore, we've got an area that it's completely new. I mean, on paper, it's not old school in the slightest. There's no existing characters there. Like, it's a new religion and everything. All looks completely different. And yet, one of the really amazing things about Varlamore is that in spite of that, we've had so many people say it's actually weirdly the most nostalgic they've ever felt about playing old school, because nostalgia it's about feeling, it's about how it makes you feel, and that exploring Varlamore, people were saying it made it feel like for the first time, like where they were thinking back to when they were kids and they got membership for the first time and they were going through the Taverley Gate and exploring a new world, and they're like, Varlamore was the first thing that truly recreated that feeling, because we're just going to pretend that Kieren doesn't exist for the purposes of this. But on a serious note, also a really good example of how you can do the same thing, do it wrong and do it right, and how it works completely differently. So yeah, we very much looked at Varlamore, and we knew that sailing had to really focus on that exploration side again. It had to feel like you were exploring new parts of Gillen. And obviously we saw the world map earlier, so we've got all these amazing new islands out at sea, and they've given us so many awesome new opportunities to do what Varlamore did, but also do things that Varlamore couldn't do. Varlamore is obviously very built up, there's lots of new characters to meet and that sort of thing, but with these islands, we can introduce even more variety. We can have islands that really take the exploration up to the max by having places that have never been discovered before. You go, there's no characters, or there's no NPCs to talk to and that sort of thing. You are discovering it. And it lets us have so much variety. Like, we've got a huge number of islands we're adding with sailing, with all sorts of things to do on them. Some of them, like, you've got new combat activities, new monsters to fight. Others, you've got new skilling activities and stuff like that. And then, in adding those, we can then further start to connect sailing to the rest of the game. Because when you look at other existing skills, like we take construction, for example. Construction was a skill that was, in the grand scheme of things, added a bit later on in RuneScape. When it was added, woodcutting well and truly already existed, and you could max woodcutting no problem, but construction still added new trees. You're chopping new logs to make planks to build things in your house. So we're sort of looking at that example and doing that with sailing as well. And with the islands, it sort of makes this really nice loop where you go out, you explore these new islands, you find new resources, you're using those resources to upgrade your boat, and it's all starting to now feel super interconnected. It's starting to feel very old school. It's starting to feel like it could have been there all along. But of course, most importantly, because I'm a little bit biased like that, we've also got a few new quests as well. And again, a little bit biased, but the thing that is the most old school to me is playing through like some of the like early game quests, the unique dialogue and that sort of thing, and like getting opportunity to do a bit of that with sailing as well. I think the end result is it does really feel old school.
And the last challenge I'm going to talk about was more a bit internal about our team and stuff. As you might have gathered, this project's been pretty enormous compared to anything we've undertaken before. Most projects we've ever done as a single release have never really taken more than a year to actually go from start to finish. In development, well, this has been, 2+ years, and longer if you include all the time we spent polling and blogging and feedback with players. So we had to scale the team up. We had to try and make it a bit bigger, and we've never had so many people on one project before. And so our instinct was, one massive dev team isn't going to work. So we tried to split the development team for sailing into 2 separate teams. We kind of looked at it as you've got all the island stuff that Edge just spoke about, new resources, new quests, places to explore and take your boat. The other side was all the stuff we talked about earlier, ship movement, how should boats move? What are the activities you do with your boats, like Barracuda Trials? Now, it didn't work. We ran into problems with this. We've learned a lot from that. So basically, boat movement was the biggest question, like as we mentioned. That took so long to answer that like we were struggling to make bigger progress on port task, on Barracuda Trials. It was causing problems for the islands team. And ultimately, we ended up having to bring the team all back together, rip up all our processes, and rethink about how we work as such a big team. We've got like, how many designers is it on one team?
Oh, good question. I think at the most we're 7. Yeah, I think we're
Like
7.
7 designers, and you got QA, you're working with artists. It becomes this colossal effort, all the communication back and forth. Like it's a lot, but it's worked really well. And like, I'm the design director. I haven't had my hands directly on sailing in its code and stuff. The team's done like such a tremendous job to overcome all these challenges. Like Ed and Elena, everybody, obviously back at Jagex in the team. So yeah, I'm really proud of the team. I'm really buzzing with what we've got, and I can't wait for you all to see it, really.
Yeah, I'm super excited as well. And speaking of the team, you can see a big part of the team here. It's not the full team, but some of us were at RuneFest, and that's actually the first time that we showed off sailing to the community and like let players get hands-on with it, which was really cool. And we hadn't announced that beforehand. So we were basically, in the opening speech at RuneFest, we went, "Welcome to RuneFest. By the way, go try sailing. It's here right now." And we just saw a bunch of people storming off to the LAN area. It was really cool. But yeah, the community's been a big part of this from the get-go, right? Like first voting in the skill in the first place, all the awesome Reddit memes, like it's been great. Voting on stuff and giving feedback throughout the whole thing, RuneFest, voting on the pet, like what should the sailing pet look like? It's been a community-driven project from the very beginning, and it wouldn't be the skill it is today if it wasn't for the community. So a huge thank you to everyone.
Truly like a phenomenal collaboration, and thank you to everybody so much. With that said, sort of where to find us and everything, we are doing a meet and greet pretty much not long after this, about 30 minutes after this wraps up. We're doing a meet and greet over in the meet and greet area, so we'd love to see as many of you there as possible. That'd be amazing. You can play old school, oldschool.runescape.com. It's on mobile, all of those things. So ultimately, yeah, thank you so much for listening so far. We do have a few weeks away. It's been announced to the whole community. Sailing's coming out November 19th. We genuinely are buzzing for you all to get your hands on it and actually give it a try for real. We can't wait to hear all your feedback. It's been obviously such a labor of love for everybody here and a colossal amount of effort. So can't wait for the date. But with that said, questions. We'd love your questions about anything sailing, anything old school RuneScape. So do we have a mic stand at the front? Do you want people to come up to the mic? So feel free to just queue up. Oh, lighting change.
Hello. Oh, there we go. Yeah, so Ed, obviously you mentioned about the integration of sailing to feel like it's been there the whole time. I know obviously you guys have made a lot of effort like redoing the world map and talking about the integration, but things like achievement diaries, obviously they've included every skill. Obviously there's been mention when you released Varlamore about when's the Varlamore diary coming out. Are you going to go back through for all the achievement diaries and especially like old quests, like Dragon Slayer is a classic one that would feel like you should have a sailing requirement. Now sailing exists, is there going to be like retconning of old quests? And is there going to be an integration of sailing into achievement diaries? Like, are you going to go further with the integration into the world, basically?
Achievement diaries, to be honest, they're one I would love to just take them out back and shoot them and start again, because...
Yeah.
Am I wrong? Exactly. But anyway, yeah, I'd love to be honest with achievement diaries, because this is why, because you have this problem with achievement diaries. Whenever you add a new piece of content, the achievement diary gets more and more out of date. But then at the same time, if we were to add new tasks to achievement diaries, start taking people's rewards away, that also becomes problematic. So they're just a problem in general. One of the fun things, though, about sailing and adding all these new oceans, I could very much see us adding like a new achievement diary, just covering all the new islands, oceans, that sort of thing, just because of the amount there is to do out there. So I imagine that would probably be the actual solution to that one. As for quests, this is actually a really interesting one because it kind of feels like somebody was like planning ahead. So I went back and looked at Dragon Slayer 1 and a few other quests, sort of see like what do these quests say about sailing and like it would and wouldn't work. And in Dragon Slayer 1, there's some dialogue that specifically states that you can't sail there yourself because you need a captain who knows how to captain a Crandorian ship. And I was like, these geniuses, they were ahead of their time. So it actually turned out that in quite a few cases, like the narrative actually pretty much always, was already working. So at least for launch, we haven't really had to make many changes to the legacy quests, which it's one of those things I think there's pros and cons. I do think I sort of lean on the side. I think it's nice that we haven't really had to make changes to them because going back to what we were saying, like while obviously integration is important, we want it to feel like it was always there. It's cheating to do that by just changing old pieces of content as well. Like Dragon Slayer is very nostalgic, so the fact we were able to actually kind of make it work without having to change that, I think worked quite well. But that's not to say that there would never be like an option to make further change if people wanted to.
Thank you.
Hiya, how you doing? Thank you for all your hard work on RuneScape. It's such an amazing game and played it for a long time. My question was regarding movement outside of sailing. So we have Hollowed Sepulchre for higher level movement to teach stuff like true tiles and where to move and all that. Is there any plans for lower level movement activities to like go over sort of like the Crystal Hunleaf tiles when you're doing CG or anything along those lines? Because movement is a big pain point for players.
I just want to make sure I get your question right. Are you asking about tutorialization almost of movement and making that
Of
easier?
player movement, not ship boats.
Okay. I think there's definitely a lot of space there. As you say, there's the Hallowed Sepulchre, but that's really high level. You don't get there until after, I'm going to butcher this, Sins of the Father? Yeah? That's the right quest? Okay, cool. That's really high level. So at that point, you probably know like a lot of movement already, or you've been sort of forced to learn it because of various things you've had to do in the game. I think there's a lot of space to explore that further. I think we're kind of doing it a little bit with introducing like low-level bosses, if that makes sense. So if you think about Scurious or the Royal Titans.
Moons have a lot of movement stuff going on.
So I think that's sort of the approach that we've taken with movement, and maybe we'll need to do something similar with sailing. We just kind of have to see how it goes.
That said, agility is no one's favorite skill, right? Does anyone disagree? It could do with something more engaging at a lower level and something in the spirit of Hallowed Sepulchre, but maybe not obviously pushing quite as far. I think would be amazing. So maybe one day we'd love to do it, but
Gridmaster pets, are they leagues equivalent, or are they will they be carried over, Gridmaster pets, over to leagues or any other seasonal game mode?
they certainly won't go over to leagues. And I guess the question is probably out on what happens with future seasonal modes. Like Gridmasters are kind of initially set as a one-off. We want to do more seasonal modes, and what we do with the reward points will probably carry over between different seasonal modes, but probably separate to leagues. So whether pets carry over, not really sure.
Oh, yeah,
Maybe we'll even do another Gridmaster. Like it's gone well, so like, but yeah.
Amazing.
That's
Thank
yet
you so
to be
much.
Determined. Thank you. Hello.
So my main question is going to be around like leaderboards and stuff, because with any new kind of content, there's always a big faff about leaderboards, like trying to be the first to get 99 and all that kind of jazz. So my first kind of question is sailing going to be like, because there's kind of like a spectrum of skills. We got like farming, which can take like months and months to do, or you got like Fletcher, which you can technically knock out in like a day. So like where kind of would sailing sit in that regard? And in a similar vein, in terms of the skill itself, in terms of getting like better experience and stuff, are some of those methods going to be locked behind different skill levels in other skills? Like, for example, do I need to have like 80 woodcutting to be able to do like a better sailing skill? Or is it kind of open in that regard?
Sailing is not hard locked behind any other skill, but construction is going to help a lot. Because with construction, you can build better facilities and you can upgrade your boat. This is going to make your life a lot easier. What was the first part of the question, sorry?
As in terms of how long kind of would you expect it might take to like 99 skill?
We're not expecting sailing to be like time locked like farming is, but the sort of balancing we've aimed at is sort of the middle of the road, if that makes sense. We don't want it to be necessarily the fastest skill on launch. We also don't want it to be the slowest. Somewhere in the middle. I think it's important that the skill also has room to grow. We want to keep adding to sailing. We want to be able to react to feedback and like add new methods where people say, we really like this thing, can we have more of it, please? And if we don't have any wiggle room, then we're going to struggle. So yeah, somewhere in the middle of the road, I would say.
Yeah, my question's just a little bit more lighthearted. It's kind of like, so Tutorial Island is obviously something that's unobtainable. what have you done to, like, is there a place where sort of people can go talk to all the new people, or is there something like where you can't just go there at all? What have you done to Tutorial Island?
We haven't done anything with Tutorial Island, to be honest. There's already this like hard barrier around the whole island, so it means you can't like sail onto it, and there's no dock on there either, which means that technically you can sail all the way up to it, just not onto it, and you can say hi to the noobs if you want.
Cool.
But in the tutorial, you can't speak yet, so they can't talk back, unfortunately.
Saying hi sounds a lot more nice than I think what you were hoping to achieve.
Yeah, technically, you can now sail your boat alongside Tutorial Island and say whatever you'd like.
I'll keep that in mind. All right.
Will sailing affect the max cape?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, no.
Have you got a max cape now?
Like, so close.
Oh, man.
Not anymore, you're not.
Prayer, agility, and runecrafting.
You got 3 weeks or whatever it is to get a taste. Like,
And then, are you going to do a sailing raid?
Not for launch, but maybe in the future.
oh my god, it sounds so cool to go on long ships as a raid or something, long boats and sail north or something. Like, I love these ideas, but yeah, we're not building a raid is a massive project in itself, so we want to get sailing out, and then I think this is where sailing's really exciting, is actually the next 5 years and what we can do with it and what it's unlocked for us. So a raid would absolutely love to. It won't be the next raid, but yeah,
All right,
one day.
cheers. Thank you.
Hiya, just have a quick question about pets. So I know that we narrowed the pets down to 5 pets, which are all amazing, and we chose the turtle, which is really cute. But what were some of the ideas that you had before those 5 pets that were narrowed down?
Are you asking like which other pets we were considering?
Yes, for sailing pet.
Oh, we had a bunch of different ones. For the longest time, because we programmed the pet like ages ago, because we knew there was going to be a pet, but we didn't know which one the community was going to choose. So for the longest time, it was a seal, like narratively, but we hadn't done the artwork for it yet because we were waiting for the community to decide. So it was a seal, and it had seal dialogue, but it had the model of Rocky, the raccoon. And it was really confusing for a lot of people. I think we also talked about like maybe like a sea otter at some point. There were a few different ones in the running, but yeah, I'm glad it ended up with the turtle actually, because there's a griffin boss coming with the sailing as well, and that also comes with its own pet. And the griffins in our game are kind of seagull-like, and there was a seagull in the running, and thankfully it didn't win because then we would kind of have 2 seagull pets.
Thank you.
There are so many good options.
There were
It's like
a
a
lot of
list
good
of what you
options.
could have had.
Yeah.
Hello.
Hi. So you've obviously done a lot of work into integrating sailing into other skills and the rest of the game, the combat system. I don't know how much thought, how careful were you with changing the metas for how you train the skills that sailing is going to interact with?
I'll let you expand, but like this is one of the things I was terrified of because I was sort of imagining in my head the efficiency training guide for each skill or the Iron Man efficiency guides people have, and like imagining that sailing shouldn't be omnipresent in these lists. It should be as present as other skills. So we don't want to dominate the meta, but we do want to touch it because a skill should be interwoven into the game like the other skills. You know, it can be efficient to train woodcutting before you do another thing. It can be efficient to train smithing before you do another thing. It can be efficient to do this quest, then do this thing. Like, sailing should have a presence in that system and a decision making about what you do next, but it shouldn't dominate and become like, oh, right, get 99 sailing, then play the game. Because that's not fun. This game is all about making your own journey and making decisions about what you do next. So sailing should be an option. It shouldn't be the only sensible one.
Did you find it a challenge to figure out the best way to integrate sailing without it dominating, or sometimes maybe dominating?
The way we've sort of thought about a lot of that is when we balance stuff, we either balance for XP or for sort of value, like GP value. How much money am I going to make from doing this thing? With sailing, a lot of the need for the new resources and in turn the new training methods to get those was the value of what you're getting and like using that in boat building. So for example, the new highest level tree that you can cut is going to be rosewood trees. Wow. And they're probably not going to be the woodcutting meta for training the skill, but getting the logs themselves is going to be really valuable because a lot of people are going to need those. So that's kind of how we've approached it. We've not wanted it to be encroaching on that meta too much across all the skills. That's not to say like none of the skills will have a meta change, but there might be meta changes at different level brackets. So Maybe there's a new woodcutting meta at level 40 now, for example, right? But not at the high end.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello.
Best cosplay so far.
Thank you.
Amazing.
It took a while. 3 questions. First one, how does it integrate with PvP? I'll let you go for it.
At the moment, it's blocked in PvP, so it doesn't.
Fair enough. Second one was, what are we panic selling?
Panic selling. I thought
it
you were going
trouts
to ask
at the
about
minute?
buying.
There's something about trouts going on.
We're not allowed to talk about trouts anymore.
Yeah,
No.
turns out he's scamming us.
And then the third question, I missed RuneFest, and this one's from Mod Ed. You got any socks?
So we really wanted to bring socks here, and we asked, and they said we're all out of socks. We actually wanted to bring socks, but we were all out of socks.
tried.
Apparently someone
Sorry.
gave them all away at RuneFest or something. So I'm really sorry. We were going to bring socks.
We tried. That's everything. Thank you.
Thank you.
73. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Physician. If you want socks, you can go to the RuneScape homepage. I've got my Slayer socks on. There you are. So
you
my
go.
question, I only play Deadman modes. I play the tournament seasonals and World 3, 4, 5. I want to know, this new skill, what are your thoughts and implications it could have on maybe sigils, PvP escaping, anything you can mention?
Well, integrating sailing into game modes like Deadman or future leagues is a massive question that we've not fully answered. I think what we've decided on for now, the next Deadman that's not a million miles off probably won't have sailing in it.
Okay.
Now, there's a number of things we thought about with that, like Deadman's accelerated, leagues are accelerated, all these game modes give you a lot of XP. We don't want to have the next game mode come out like immediately and let people skyrocket to 99 sailing and feel like that actually takes away from the new skill launch. And I think that's probably a rule we'll stick to for all future skills. So I think there's loads of potential, right? It could be really interesting. You've got a huge game expansion. There's a lot of new things to think about when it comes to sigils and different aspects of the world, how that might interact with Deadman, right? Escaping on a boat sounds quite fun. Like maybe that could be cool. And let alone what we do with even boat PvP down the line when we get to that as well. But big questions. We don't have a great answer right now, but yeah.
Thank you. Also, were you just saying that it won't be in, it's unlikely to be in 3, 4, 5 or the next seasonal?
Both.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Have a nice day, you lot.
All right, thank you. Oh wait, it might be in 345. It'll be in 345, right?
We'll double check that.
Yeah. Thank you. As I said earlier, we're going to do a meet and greet in about 30 minutes, so we'd love to see as many of you as there as possible. It might take 30 minutes for us to get there, so we'll see how it goes. Thank you all.